Hello everybody and welcome to this next episode of Battlechads. I'm Josh and I'm joined by my co-host Sam. Hi Sam.
Hi Josh, how are we doing? It's been a couple of weeks without me. Have you missed me or?
Well, we only spoke about you last episode, saying how much of a real life grind you've been putting. I know Magic players enjoy a grind and you've been doing it IRL.
Yes, Magic cards, as much as I love them, can be quite expensive. So it's nice to have that little IRL grind to guarantee the magic at the end of the day.
Correct. And we're also joined by an honorary guest co-host at this point, Myra. Hi Myra.
Everyone, well, good to be back. It's been, 3 months? 2 months? 4 months? Roughly about that long since I was here.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since the last episode, I've been on a insane amount of grind in terms of Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Magic.
Unlike Sam, unfortunately, my real life actually took a bit of a pause to focus on all the premier events this season.
Yeah, there's been quite a lot.
Yeah, good to be on a break, good to be back in uni, and good to be here, I guess. So, hi everyone.
Excellent. And we do have another special guest with us, but before we move on to that, I think Sam, you have a little word for us.
Yeah, so naturally, I've taken a step back from Magic for the past couple of weeks. And obviously, if you miss a couple of weeks of Magic, you miss a brand new Magic the Gathering set. And this time it's turtles, right? And turtles have something very peculiar in particular, which is shells. Shells are protective, and we personally are protected by UltraPRO. If you need a way to protect your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cards or any other cards for that matter, you can rely on UltraPRO and their wonderful Apex line.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Doom sleeves they've got at the minute. They shuffle really well, they protect your cards really well, and more importantly, they look really nice on the table as well. Since I've used them, I've not really felt the need to use anything else. And, you know, me and Josh, we sit here and shuffle just while we're talking and doing other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And my cards are always looking pristine.
Excellent. You know what? You are a good segueist into the UltraPRO sponsorship because we are a Chad Magic podcast and Chad Magic are therefore sponsored by UltraPRO. Hi, Maria. Hello. How are we?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
So, Maria, you are our sort of special guest. Well, you are Myra both special, but you are our new special guest to this podcast. Maria, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? In Battlechads, we like to ask when you started playing Magic, and by that I mean what set you started playing Magic, and then just tell us a little bit about yourself, sort of your Magic sort of career, what you've been up to, and where you are now, etc.
All right, so I'm Maria, also known as Mythic Maria on Twitch. So I'm currently Magic the Gathering content creator, caster, and competitive player. So I started playing back in 2008 during OG Loring block, so Shadowmoor.
Yes,
I remember that very well. But Shards of Alara was my first pre-release.
Nice. So you that's like, compared to me, it's quite old school really, because I was Eldritch Moon. That was mine.
Nice. Yeah, but I took a break from Magic from 2014 and started playing again in 2021.
Nice.
So back then in 2010s, I top 16 nationals. I got my Pro Tour invite. I played a lot of GPs back then. So, but then, you know, life happens, family and stuff. I took a break from Magic, but then, yeah, Magic never leaves you. So something was in me like, oh damn, I still miss drafting. So I want to draft. Why don't I download Arena and try play Magic again? And, you know, this is how it all started basically, or should I say restarted again. So I qualified for the Mythic Championship, basically like right away, which was incredible. And yeah, after that, I just started creating content on YouTube, then on Twitch, and now just stream regularly 4 times a week on Twitch. And also you can find me on X or Twitter. So yes, here I am.
We'll make sure that all your socials and links and everything will be posted below. So, you know, if you do want to check out Maria and what she's doing in the world of Magic the Gathering, you'll be able to see all that in the show notes below. Now, moving last podcast we had Rorion and Control Freak, and we've sort of talking about sort of deck selection, which is sort of like going to link a little bit into this pod in terms of now you've sort of got the tools to then select your deck and select your goals and etc. But how do you then develop that, and how do you set those goals, and how you then go to achieving them? And I think that was really good conversation to have with you, Myra, and you, Maria, because you're both part of Team Worldy Council. Now, I discovered something on the pre-read that I actually wasn't quite aware of until you made me aware of it. But you've got sort of a break in Worldy Council in sort of like it's sort of 2 teams essentially. Just want to explain that for us, Myra.
Yeah, so obviously, as a lot of you may know, Team Worldy Council Heavy Play is a professional team from players all around the world. Many of you may recognize like Mengu, Li Shitian, Christian Calcano, Eduardo Sajgalik, and myself as one of the core members of Team Worldy Council. So we are a pro team that focuses on the Pro Tour and the World Championships, doing testing house before them, practicing limited, etc. So all the usual stuff. The biggest differentiator between us and other teams, other pro teams, is that we really, really, really value in developing, giving you opportunities to, essentially up and coming players. And we basically try and embed our professional process within them. And that basically forms a pipeline between the RC, the regional level, to the actual pro level. So the idea is that since we had a very successful, developing of newer players, we said, okay, let's decide to make a satellite pipeline team under the Worldy Council banner, which is the Worldy Council RC team that I am actually in charge of. So the RC team is split into different crews, such as the South American crew, the Canadian crew, the Australian, New Zealand crew, and of course the EU crew that I lead. And basically what I do is I open up, recruit some members here and there, form a team of 15-ish European players that we test alongside the other RC crews like the South Americans, the Canadians, etc. And whenever we qualify people to the PT, we basically push them to the PT team for them to join and test. I am part of both, leading on the RC side and also co-leading on the PT side. And I kind of act as that bridge from the regional level to the pro level. So you're not wrong in that it sometimes seems as 2 different teams because, for example, like a lot of the members already qualified to the next PT may not come or may not test for the regionals coming up. So we had like Kalk join the RC team to play in the Spotlight Series. We had Lorenzo Terlizzi, my really close and good friend, that also came to Turin to, snipe some cash, snipe some World Championship slot, who tested with us. But some members like Alex Rohan, who's already qualified, are focused on the PT side and not the RC side. So it's, just different levels and different timings. There's a bit of overlap. So we basically manage and work around that.
Cool. And so Maria, so you've since doing your Magic Escalade, you've been accepted into the RC team of the Worldy Council, and that is headed by Myra. How have you found sort of being in that sort of space, in that sort of developmental space towards aiming to be on the Pro Tour side of things or the pro side of things, being underneath the sort of guidance of Myra?
So I've always been a competitive player. So despite me doing content and all of that, I've still been playing RCQs. So I had a slot for Turin. And Antwerp was a great opportunity to make connections. And this is how it led me to Myra. So we did an interview. And as I said back then to Myra, I felt like a very good team is one piece missing for me to succeed, to reach my competitive goals. And like we aligned very well in our values. So I said that I would love to be part of a team where all of the members care about each other's success.
Yeah.
And now that we've finished the whole season, I can confirm that it is 100% true. So it's not just words. When Myra says that one success is the team success, you can actually feel it. So I feel very grateful to be a part of it. So even though I did not qualify for the Pro Tour, I have a feeling that it's yet to come.
And that's sort of like what we're going to sort of hedge towards on this podcast is, you know, you've got that, I guess, stepping stone in front of you. You sort of know the pathway there because you not only have you've created that pathway through, you know, being ambitious and setting yourself, you know, achievable goals that will eventually step you to that point. But you've got the background of it, you know, you've got the support, you found the people, because Magic is about the gathering, right? Like, you know, you are an individual, you do succeed at an individual level, but you can't do that without your friends, without your colleagues, without people helping you there, bouncing ideas off each other, etc. Sam, you got anything else to add? Anything to add towards that?
Oh, you know me, mate. I've always got plenty to talk about, which is why I'm not the worst person to have as a co-host on a podcast. So it's just like, I think that community. I'm going to be honest. When you scroll on Twitter sometimes, doom scrolling at 2 a.m, and you see people go, "Oh, it's about the gathering." It does sound like drivel, to be honest, because you're playing a competitive card game, right? But I was recently, last week, I was at the 10-year birthday party of my LGS. Shout out to Just Play, premium gaming store in Liverpool. Fantastic.
I meant to actually ask you how that went, but I'll ask you.
Went really well, but you know what a lot of people don't know is I actually used to work at that LGS. I worked there for 2 years. I was at uni, and I headed up all of their Magic program and whatever else, and helped them get premium status from WPN and Wizards and stuff. And just being in that room, and like, you know, Richie's a softie at heart, and he did a speech, and he just went through everything that the staff contributed to. And I remember like just being in a room full of people, and it's like, I've never felt closer to being at home, because obviously now I live in Liverpool as well. So I was quite emotional, actually. It was very nice. It feels like a very, very long time ago. No, not like me at all. But it feels like a very long time ago now that I was actually involved at that level. And if I look at Magic as a journey, I'm now, you know, I used to sell people boosters. I used to open boosters. And now I progressed on a similar journey myself with the Chad team. And, you know, like, it's really special. And that's why, even though I wasn't qualified for RC Touring, my favorite thing to do on an RC weekend is on the Friday or the Thursday, or the team photos. Here's who we're using to tackle the format. And then I also love on Sunday when people are publishing the final results, and you can see the people who, you know, I recognize a lot of faces. It was really cool for touring, actually, as it was about 4 or 5 rounds in a row, starting from round 2 on coverage, where I knew somebody per game, which was so cool. Like, we had, obviously, Myra had a very cool game against Jeskai Synthesizer. Really cool game 1, actually. But anyway, I just remember he sat at home, and I couldn't compete, but I could sit on the edge of the couch for the sake of my friends. And, well, it's more of a business relationship, Myra, but I would consider you a friend at this point. And obviously, the team photo, seeing Maria as part of Team Worldy Counts was very, very cool as well. Always love, you know, seeing that sort of stuff. So one question I've got for you guys in terms of prep. Standard's a very strange format at the minute, right? Because we've gone from Badger Mall Cub to non-Badger Mall Cub, and then we have a UK testing team where we sort of talk shop and talk how we think the meta is going to adapt and approach and whatever else. And halfway through that process for touring, we realized that the meta, we predicted the meta was going to be Badger Mall Cub decks, and then those decks like Elementals and the Sunderflock piles would come in and topple the Badger Mall Cub decks. And then Is It Lessons would come back in, Flectus Muscles. But we've really not seen that loop. It's really broken that mold, and the fact that now people are just playing whatever they want. realistically, right? Like if you look at the metagame's like we saw breakout decks like Momo White, which is very cute. But everyone in Worldy Council this time ended up on Bant Rhythm, is that right?
No.
No, I've played
No.
Mono Green Landfall, and other guys played different decks. So Band
Right,
Rhythm,
okay.
it was just what, 3 people, right, Myra?
3 people.
Interesting.
Because Myra,
So-
you were on Monument, right? Is it?
Me?
Yeah, we were.
No,
Is it?
Bant Rhythm.
Oh, you're on Ban.
Not really.
So
So to break down what we were on 3 band rhythms, 2 is the elementals, quite a few lessons. So it was Ben Jones, Davide, aka
Yeah.
Pete's Angry,
Mhm.
Gustav, one of the youngest members that I actually picked up, 17
Mhm.
years old,
Wow.
rising superstar in the future. And then one of the newest PT members that we've added as a, to help out, Universe, also played lessons. And so I think 4 or 5 of us played lessons, and then Maria played Landfall, and we were kind of at different levels of the metagame,
Mm-hmm.
but we all identified these decks as the viable ones.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Maria, you can probably talk a bit about like how we kind of discuss about the cycling of the metagame, the weekly meetings, and how we approach that. And I can probably finish off with where the metagame is going compared to like when the PT was at the start of the format.
Sure. So what I appreciated the most, well, maybe not the most, but it mattered to me when I joined the team, that there was a very good structure. So we had weekly calls, and right from the start, there was an exploration phase. Then we were locking on 2-3 decks. We were testing that, gauntlet testing, all of that. And once we locked, we just, kept focusing on that basically. So yeah, within our team, we had a very good communication, but it's just a matter of preference. Also, we realized that standard is really like a rock, paper, scissors kind of a deal right now. So we just identified those top decks as viable, and just it was truly a matter of preference.
It's actually quite indicative of a healthy metagame there, when you can pick a deck on preference as well as having a metagame shout. So, you've got a plethora of decks to pick in standard, and it almost has, from what I've looked at it, a similar biorhythm as modern, in terms of there's decks of the weekend, not necessarily decks of the metagame, like we saw in VV Cauldron. Like VV Cauldron was like the best thing you can do. That was the metagame. But now in standard, because the format is so wide, the amount of sets in it so varied, that the fact that I really like this deck, so I can play this because I can play this at 90%. But also, it's a good meta pick. And I wouldn't say fractured choice in the team for what you pick, but the variety of decks that you brought to the RC with success as well it proves that the standards in quite a good spot, right?
So yes and no, I think. So what I mean by that is, I think actually if you compare it with different formats, I think standard is more similar to Pioneer, where there are different clusters of decks that try to attack the format in similar ways. For example, you will have the Fatal Push Thoughtseize deck and clusters of them, whether that's mono black, whether that's blue black, whether that's black red. And then you would have maybe a blue white no more lies kind of deck, whether that's like Yorion control, whether that's like blue white, whether you splash a color. Maybe it would be tap out control with like Yorion enigmatic fires kind of thing. And then on the other side, you'd have like the aggressive decks, whether that's like mono white, whether that's like green red. And then you would have like the combo decks with Lotus Field, whether that's like Lumra, whether that's like Lotus Field combo. And I think the idea of how to tackle this format for us was identifying what kind of clusters are at the different levels of the metagame. We usually describe it as level 1, 2, and 3, where it's like level 1 is the most expected, level 2 is what's going to try and prey on it, and then level 3 is either a metagame, like meta choice call, that is weak to level 1 but very strong to level 2, or whether that's trying to beat both level 1 and 2. So from the start of this format, I think, yes, like we identified from Leon that Cub and Lessons were the two level 1s of the format. And then Lorwyn came out. There were a lot of decks trying to, capitalize on that dynamic. Some succeeded, some failed. The successful ones were like the Spell Elementals, the Thunderflock clusters, including like the Ashling Elementals deck. We actually put Eduardo in top 4 of the PT. And then the failed ones were unfortunately the one I played with my teammates, aka 33% win rate living end combo. And then there was also like the banned airbending deck that, had a really good weekend a weekend prior in the USRC, but kind of had a faulty, fragile core. And then the level 3 decks were the decks that came after the PT, whether that's things like blue-black mid-range, blue-black demons, etc. So we kind of identified that these level 1, 2, and 3 would consistently be cycling through the metagame. And it was a matter of what's the most viable, what's the least vulnerable, and moving from there, tournament to tournament, not week to week. Because it's not proportional how much the metagame changes. For example, like we had a 1 week in between, the Canadian, no, what was it? The Canadian RC, I think.
There was Canadian.
And then, Canadian one, also the Arena Championships, like
It was the same weekend. Was that the same weekend? There was one.
Same weekend. Oh, and the second USRC that you cannot forget. And then there was the pre-release weekend with no events. And then there was our RC. So it's like, because we had that weekend in between, the movement of the format was a bit more slower. Like one deck popped up, but not too many, even with the new set coming out. So I think moving from the Arena Championships I played, it was condensed heavily around mono green because it would both feast upon the new level 1 deck of the format, which was Demir Demons, and also was good into Lessons, or was said to be good against Lessons. And then, because mono green was so, condensed, where a lot of people played it, Simic Cub kind of came back where Channel Fireball brought it. And then I also brought like a super controlling version of Lessons with no talent, with some Floodmores, which wasn't stock at all. And then the metagame shifted again, where, Elementals came back, etc., etc., etc. So I think, Maria, for us, we kind of identified like what were the strong decks, what were the weaker decks, and what were the viable strategies that could poke a hole in the metagame that we expected. And like, for example, you played Landfall because it was the most powerful deck, and like I played Bant Rhythm because I felt it was powerful and kind of capitalized on the metagame. So how do you feel about the team decks that we brought?
Yeah, I agree with what you've said, obviously, and you elaborated on that very well. Yeah, I actually was the only one on Landfall. It was quite surprising for me back at the time, but I did test a lot with Australia-New Zealand team. So it was a very good group effort, and I picked the deck, just because it was very resilient and quite universally good, you could tell, in the sense that it has 3 different strategies. So you can be the beatdown with Chocobos, you can play the combo with Harmonizer, or you can just go wide with Nursery.
Yeah.
So I really liked that flexibility of the deck, and of course, like the sheer power of it. It's a tier 1 deck, so that's why I picked it. And yeah, we tested quite a lot, of course, within our European team as well. Helped each other out as much as we could. We were villaining against each other as well.
Villainy.
So it was a villain, meaning that you're playing a deck that you're not actually going to play at the event, but to just help out your teammate. That is called villain. Yeah, it was a good communication, even though a lot of us ended up playing a variety of different decks. More than half of us made day 2, and overall did very well. So Jaime made top 8, top 4. So huge congrats again, and shout out to Jaime.
Well
and of course representing the so-called team deck, the Myra deck.
Yeah,
It was
so
very cool
big
to see.
shout out to Jaime, like Maria said.
Yeah.
So Jaime has been a total absolute workhorse, where not only did he help the PT team build the elementals list, he then went on to help me build, identify lessons as a strong deck, strong into elementals if played correctly, strong into landfall if built correctly, and then helped the RC EU team build a Bant Rhythm deck after trying to build a variety of different decks. So true brewer and intelligence on his side contributing to the team. But like the Bant Rhythm deck that I actually brought had about 40% conversion rate to day 2. That's something quite insane, because usually the average number would be like, what, 15%?
Yeah, something like
So
those lines,
40%. Absolutely mind-blowing. But the idea was the band deck before the PT, like, discarded playing Uroboroid and discarded that Simic fast explosive aspect to play a more controlling, play to the board kind of strategy with the Bright Glass Gearhawk package, getting Seam Rips and Melt Strider's Resolve.
Yeah.
To fight the mirror match and also try and fight lessons. What we identified was, because landfall and because prowess decks were, you could use the explosiveness of the Simic deck to kind of, have a strong matchup when you're on the play, but a little bit weaker matchup when you're on the draw, that play draw dynamic. We identified that we kind of wanted to keep that cub explosivity while adding the white elements to try and flip the play draw dynamic. So Seam Rip really helps catching back up on the draw.
Yep.
Being able to survive one turn to play the Gearhawk, kill 2 things from your opponent's side against landfall, and then combo off the next turn really helps. So we kind of identified that the white splash helps in the landfall matchup, which, Maria, thank you for villaining.
Of course.
I was able to learn a lot from our testing sessions. Also, getting Sage of the Skies, removal into Sage of the Skies against Prowess is backbreaking for them.
Yeah.
And then against the mirror match, you're naturally good. And then against the elementals list, we can basically just Seam Rip their Ashling, Seam Rip their Flame Braider, and just outrace them, which flips that awful matchup. So that was basically the reason why we thought the deck was very broken, and few of us actually pivoted onto the Bant deck after, locking in.
Ultimately, didn't Bank Rhythm win Turin and Landfall won Milwaukee? Was it? There was an American RC at the same time, wasn't
The
it?
Spotlight.
Was it
Spotlight Richmond.
Richmond, yes.
So that was won by Landfall. So you were probably bob on in your deck selections, I'd say. On that, just before we sort of move on to the next sort of point, I just want to comment, because we had the sort of breakout deck that I sort of interpreted was the Prowess deck, because it sort of like seemed to get over the landfall deck and potentially outrace the Bant Rhythm deck. So did your team consider that at all? Because I know a lot of pro gamers such as Ross Miriam did really well with that deck, and there was a lot of people brought the Prowess deck into both Turin and into the Spotlight.
Yeah, so I'll let Maria talk a bit after I chime in a few points. So the Prowess deck actually popped up at the AC, where Dafore came top 8 in that event, and he was basically preying on a lot of the the lessons list that was built, to be more slower, more controlling against, like the mirror match and landfall deck. So
Yeah.
it capitalized on that. From there, a lot of the strong pro players or MTGO grinders kind of started playing it and having a lot of success in challenges. And one of the big innovations that came out after the Arena Championships was actually from our, teammate from the PT team, Lorenzo Terlizzi, winning a challenge with the Eddie Merc Crabs in the sideboard.
Yes.
That came in a lot of matchups. It even comes in the Cub matchup, Landfall matchup, etc. So that's kind of the progression of that list. It came from a really lean, slick shot aggro kind of build. Played the Eddie Merc Crab.
Yep.
Myra got popular, so less Wild Ride, more Drake Hatchers in the main. And then it came to the RC where a lot of people actually played Lorenzo's stock list that he popularized. And there was even a little meta game going on where, because like Prowess are gearing towards the mirror match, there's like room for decks like Cub, there's like room for the landfall decks to try and capitalize on that. So yeah.
For sure. So yeah, is it Prowess, or shall we call it Timur Prowess, because they have this cheeky splash
Yeah, they do actually.
for
I've
Elusive
noticed that.
Otter. Yeah, it was the most represented deck in Turing, and we expected that actually. So for us, it was no news. And me personally, I actually tailored my list specifically to face Prowess and Lessons as well. So, and we were correct in our assumptions. These were top 2 decks. So I'm pretty happy with the work that we've done with the Landfall deck, even though it didn't go well for me, but I mean, still. And as for Prowess, yeah, I think Myra summed it up pretty well. Now that the deck has become so popular, people are attacking versus mirror more than versus anything else, and yeah, there is a room for that for sure. For other decks, I mean.
So Sam, before I sort of move on the topic, have you got anything to add from the sort of standard sort of side of things, and the topic more geared towards standard?
So I think that like standard's hasn't been the best format for the past year, I think I'd say. But I think standard, I've really enjoyed playing standard. I've actually really enjoyed playing standard throughout VV summer or VV spring or whenever that was, because I actually found that quite a skill intensive format. I felt that the VV players who played better usually won, and took our good friend Maciek all the way to second place in Spotlight Liverpool. But I think Myra mentioned that standard is very reminiscent of Pioneer and has essentially the same benefits and flaws of Pioneer. And I think that's actually spot on. I think that's why we have seen Pioneer really disappear into the shade, to be honest. Because if you had standard into Pioneer season, you've basically got the same meta game under a different umbrella, under different decks. And I think like one thing that before I joined the team and was lucky enough to be invited to a team, when I was invited to a team, I was initially like, brilliant, we're all going to be on the same deck. And the more that we've done the team testing, I know, the more that we've done the actual testing though, I think the benefits, or when people from a team testing session, or especially for Worldy Council when it's different, like it's almost by like world map, almost like the New Zealand team, the EU team and such. I think that it's actually a great representation of powerful, beneficial testing when people are coming out with different strategies. Because naturally, don't get me wrong, if Oko is illegal again, just play Oko, right? But then that argument is, how do I build my Oko list? And as we said, like, we tech for Prowess in this way from 2 different strategies. But I think that the idea that everyone's going to come out in the same list, I think will be, under some circumstances, pretty bad testing. It probably means somebody's putting the foot down, people on testing, somebody's just going, yeah, I've played a league with this. This is pretty cool. You guys should play it too. So if you're listening at home and wondering how very good players that we're lucky to be joined by can end up on different strategies, it's actually really hard to align yourselves on decks when you're not vibing or, strategy. Like, I think if I was to play over that weekend, I definitely would have picked Landfall, I think. And Josh, you would have picked some rubbish Demir pile.
Probably.
Probably, yeah. So
I'm probably done well with it as well.
Yeah, probably. I've never seen you register a playable card and do well. It's always, I'm trying to convince this guy that Quantum Riddler is playable in Goryo's, by the way. He is not a fan of Riddler in Goryo's. And guess what? He wins anyway, so what do I know? But no, I think that, of course. I think that if people listening from home maybe aren't, I always love these type of collaboration episodes because we can come at it from a Chad Magic point of view. And obviously we hear from a Worldy Council point of view. And obviously Worldy Council are absolute juggernauts of the pro scene at this moment. But I always love looking past that veil a little bit, letting our audience see past that veil for the first time perhaps, and see that actually, even though you are a team, there's still a lot of individuality going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And if everybody contributes, unless it's very rare circumstance, I think it's very rare for people to come out on the same thing on the other side. And in terms of our testing, I think that it's really interesting in standard a minute when decks are popping up week to week. As Myra mentioned, Prowess was brand new, and we had Christian, our team lead, our team, the Chad Magic brand, I guess. Don't let Christian hear that; it'll go to his head.
But his head's already big enough, mate.
Yeah, I know. He ended up
enough.
on Momo White and had a really good weekend on Momo White. Considering Christian is not the world's biggest competitive player, is a fantastic weekend.
Mate, he's a commander content creator.
Player, yeah. But what for the Worldy Council guys, he put in the WhatsApp chat, I'm 4-1, I'm having fun, and this is like never a message I thought I'd get of Christian. So that's really cool.
Usually it's
like
you just
like a good
Kaito or
point
something.
you mentioned was like there are individualism within that choice. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
Because people, even though are aiming for the same goals, like I think the most important thing is their risk tolerance towards how they get there and what they want out of a tournament is very different. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna try and aim for the ceiling. I'm gonna try and aim for that trophy. I'm gonna try and aim for that qualification. But others might go for like, oh, I want a stable result. I want things to be in my control, so I'll register lessons. Or there'll be people like, I know my skill set is X, Y, and Z, so I want to play into that. So I'll choose, maybe like an aggro deck. But I think the important thing that really differentiates us to other teams, aspiring teams especially, is that although we have the individualism, we are all aligned on where the overall metagame is heading towards. And I think as long as that's like nailed and done spot on, we can then use those data to build the best decks, best versions of the decks that we're registering. And I think that's more important than ever in such a high power standard format because, the games are so much more condensed than the traditional standard where, with more cards in the format because of the 3-year rotation, games are going to be more ended quickly. So it's important how you attack, certain decks and certain strategies and where you pick your fights. So yeah, I think Maria, like, even though you were on Landfall, even though I was on Bant Rhythm, we kind of identified the important things were to respect Prowess, and we did it from two different angles. And we couldn't have done so without Lorenzo's input, without people villaining the Prowess side, without discussing the Prowess deck, whether that's viable or not, etc. So that's, the team effort that, we need to appreciate.
Hey, I just want to thank Lorenzo myself, actually, because Lorenzo went on an absolute tear with Prowess on the week up to Turin. And every result Lorenzo had, I was sharing it in our testing team. So Lorenzo unknowingly actually helped us along as well. Thanks, Lorenzo.
You actually, so Myra, that conversation, you actually alluded quite a lot into sort of the process. Well, the whole process of sort of how you identify the plays in the metagame, and then how you then apply that knowledge to your deck selection, and then how you then apply that further to what you want out of the game and what you essentially aim to play or aim to achieve. Now, I sort of want to ask Maria this first before going back to you, Myra, because I'm going to ask you to expand on it differently to Maria. But I just want to know, what would be your... How do you identify the sort of goals you want to achieve? Bearing in mind, you got to think of where I am in my sort of position in my Magic career, what I'm capable of, all that sort of stuff. How do you identify within that, or use that information around you to set a goal? And then, because you've already sort of alluded how you go to achieve it, so I want to know what is like an example of a goal you might set recently, and how you got to that conclusion that this is going to be my goal. Like, because it's all well and good someone who rocks up to their first F&M go and be like, I want to compete in world championships, but that's not really realistic. But you also alluded, Myra, that aim higher is probably a good strategy, or maybe aim realistically is an example. I don't know, but yeah, Maria, just how do you set your goals? Essentially, is the simple question of what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, that's a good question. But first, I think I would like to add more to the team deck selection, because
Sure.
Not only it is a matter of preference and like matter of risk aversion or risk taking, but also we are all of different age, of different like personal situation. So Myra is a student and I am in my 30s. I have 3 kids, so
nearly
we're
same.
very different in that
nearly
sense.
Same. I only got 1 kid though.
Of course, I cannot just stay up all night grinding leagues. This is not my lifestyle. I cannot afford that. Still, I'm a very ambitious person and I'm a competitor at heart. So I still aim for that world championship.
Yeah.
Why not? But
Sure.
First step would be, we need to qualify to the Pro Tour, okay? So first Pro Tour, and then just one step at a time. So I've been there, and I just want to be back on that Pro Tour train. This is my goal. Hopefully, I will get it next time. But
that goal is essentially one up, isn't it, from you? Essentially, because you're like regional level now, comfortably. So the Pro Tour's like your next. It's almost like if I compare it to, go back to the first person at F&M, their goal might be attend an F&M, and then the next goal might be win an F&M. But yours is sort of like a lot higher than that. Does that goal then affect the decks you pick and how you go about picking that deck, or have you sort of like accumulated your way of thinking around the team? So say, for example, you were out the team and you were taking it on an individual level. Would that goal then affect the way you pick, the way you approach your deck selection, and particularly the way you approach the meta? Or would it affect sort of like other aspects of your decision making?
Well, of course, I want to maximize my chances, right?
Yes.
So I, of course, would always pick the top deck.
Okay.
That can get me there. I love metagaming, but if the format allows, of course.
Yeah.
Here we had a very different situation. So we had a selection of top decks, so to speak. And for example, why landfall and not lessons? So Myra was advocating for a long time because of the AC prep to play lessons, but I just realized it's not viable for me. I just don't have that much time. So I won't have enough time to get that many reps to feel comfortable, or like to realize that this is going to be good enough for me to reach that goal. So it was, just non-realistic for me. So I picked another option. that was equally strong, I would say.
Yeah.
But was just, more realistic for me
Mhm.
To achieve my goal with.
So that's really interesting. So essentially, I've identified what I want to achieve. How to do that, I've took the advice from my teammates, which I'm going to actually go to delve into you in a minute, Myra, because that's going to be the addition I'm going to add to your question. So you've took the advice from teammates. You've then took that advice. You've applied it to your then life, your physical, how you exist, and you've gone, well, that's not realistic. So I've weighed up the options. I've weighed that against my goal. I can't do that. However, using that sort of same process and that information, I've come up with this alternative, which is then realistically is going to help me achieve that, which I quite like actually, because it's something I resonate with, being 36, 2 jobs, 2 intense jobs, and the dad to an autistic child. So I actually quite like that approach.
Yes, I mean, of course, I can say that, my goal is to get to the PT or to the Worlds, and it may sound totally delusional. But if you know the process, if you take it one step at a time, like, I think it's all achievable.
Yeah.
I adore the idea. I haven't actually really consciously thought about it until you just mentioned it there, Maria, but the idea of life circumstances, and that's such a good point, and I don't actually think that that's talked about enough. I think that one really interesting thing with lessons, for example, is not only is lessons a tricky deck to play, but if playing that online to playing that on paper is a completely different deck almost.
Absolutely.
I was watching somebody over the weekend, track how many monument triggers they missed, because that deck is just really ridiculous to play in paper, and I am envious of anybody who can do it. But whereas that's a personal preference for me, that's not the sort of deck I think I would enjoy playing in paper. I love the idea that personal effects can affect Magic as well, and not forcing yourself to do something that you're not comfortable doing is a very large aspect of competitive Magic as well that I don't think spoken about enough. Me and Myra have had this conversation to death on the podcast actually, but I think the idea of realistic goals is also really healthy and smart. I'm going to say this now. This is an embarrassing fact about myself, so everybody buckle in. I don't think I've won an FNM in like 2 years. I can't 4-0 an FNM for the life of me. Can't do it. But I have free wand.
Promo is Spotlight though.
Yeah, no, I have free wand 99% of those FNMs. And I think that if you set your goals as a lot of people chase trophies and accolades and first places and stuff, and I think that realistically, top 8 isn't that different to 9th spot in a large event like this, and that consistency is really key. So I love looking at it from that angle.
Yeah, consistency is very important.
Yeah,
which is sort of what I want to talk to you a little about in this pod, Myra, is consistency. However, I want to sort of put the same question to you about your goal setting, but because you're in a position of leadership within the sort of, I don't mean this in a bad way, but a lower bracket of your team, how do you then, I guess, advise on those goal settings to someone like Maria, someone who's sort of in your charge, of how you advise those people to do that? But then how have you took your own advice and sort of displayed it, which is me sort of hinting how you've gone on this year?
Okay, so that's a big question to unpack. So I'll answer it in chunks.
Okay.
The first one is, so you said you're comparing the PT team to the RC team.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think the thing is, it's first, let's say the caliber of players, even though are different, the circumstance we're put in are also very different. That really impacts the deck selection aspect. Because the PT is, held in such a narrow time frame from set release, and we also have to prepare for limited. that time constraint really, direct, like, really forces deck selections in some Pro Tours over the others. Which means that with an RC team, we usually start testing 2 months before an RC. So we have that 2 good months of just focusing on standard, just focusing on that format, to perfect our game, understand the format, bring decks to the actual event. I believe that those 2 months versus, let's say, the 2 weeks, in that, like, 2 weeks since set release, maybe 2 months before the PT we start testing, but then there's the testing house, there's the limited power, there's the traveling to the PT, etc. Very different time constraints means that the more time we can spend on the RC, we can kind of bridge and virtually make same deck selection choice, if not better, on the RC circuit than the PT circuit. In terms of, let's say, goal setting, what I learned from the PT house especially, was a big trap people fall into is because they're so pressured into a lot of different things, whether that's perfecting a deck, knowing the ins and outs of the matchups, learning the card data for limited, being able to draft all the formats, focusing on constructed, focusing on draft. People try and, well, at least for me, I tried to choose a comfort choice over, aiming for that ceiling, maybe brewing something like Paolo did at Final Fantasy with Vivi Cauldron, or like Eduardo did with his Elementals deck. I kind of gravitated towards, okay, Living End deck is very solid with the new addition of the Jed. The deck is going to be good, etc. So I went for that floor of raw power, good data, etc. And it turned out to be an awful choice for the PT. Ever since then, my goal for every event was to be ruthless in deck selection and try and aim for the ceiling.
Okay.
That's why, even though I actually was testing the Elementals deck after the PT for the AC, that 3 weeks, 2-3 week span, I was like really heavily investing my time in Elementals. So I got cold feet when I started to lose against Lessons, which was supposed to be a good matchup. So I decided to pivot and play Lessons from 2 days before the deck submission, which, a lot of people would be very scared of, because Lessons is very tricky. It's very intricate in how you build and how you play. Also, learning about the matchup, how you sideboard, is very, finesse with, how many lessons you can side out and things like that. I still decided that the choice, the ceiling of Lessons was so high that I should go for it and just be disciplined and learn the deck inside out, which actually paid off. And I actually thought the deck was in a very favorable position into the mirror match, because I had Floodmores, because I was actually winning against Landfall, and I was also winning against Elementals, which were the really popular decks. I think that experience led me to have the confidence to, register a somewhat unknown quantity with not insane amount of reps. Like, I had 1 week to build, perfect, and learn the Bant Rhythm deck. And I felt like that ceiling, that logic behind the deck choice was so good that I should go for it if I was to aim for that world slot, if I was to aim for that trophy, if I was to aim for that PT. And I think it paid out massively. So big thanks to Jaime. Congratulations to Jaime. And I owe it to him for helping me and also building the foundations of the deck. And it was a really, really good experience this season. And it was a big breakthrough moment for me from the house, when I was able to learn about, sometimes just aiming for the ceiling, sometimes just having confidence in yourself, and also how to deal with the mental pressures before and during the event, was just massive level up moment for me as a player. Like, during the RC compared to the PT, I was just super calm, clear-minded, sharp game. Actually, I was able to like calculate how much time I could, I was trying to break my games, my 50-round clock into 3. Obviously, the feature match took a little bit longer because of the nature of my opponent's deck, but I was able to play in the best condition I was, and I'm really happy because that all came from that PT House experience where I was just in panic mode all the time, scrambling through card data, thinking about which decks to play, and yeah.
So you use goal setting, and then I guess you use goal setting and achieving those goals or not achieving those goals to then develop yourself as a player. Like when you took the Reanimator deck to the Pro Tour, you had a set idea of, well, this is really powerful. This does powerful things. This is a good shout. Turned out that deck got absolutely trounced in that tournament. But then you use that logic of, well, that's the goal I set. How did I come to the conclusion of that goal? Actually, that's not right. So I'm going to develop further, take that development to the next tournament, and then the results were drastically different.
So absolutely. So yeah, just the big idea for me was ruthlessly aiming for that ceiling. That was the quote Eduardo used when he was actually talking to me about his deck selection, which really resonated. Other idea was confidence. Other idea was just trying to contextualize what and why I was going to use a certain strategy, because I think people too often think about decks, think about cards in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Where because everything is so strong and optimized in this current age of Magic, I think the most important thing is to contextualize those ideas in the metagame and the format. It should be applied to.
Have you sort of experienced that as well, Maria? Sort of the way you've had an idea of a metagame, or you've had an idea of a strategy or whatever to achieve something within Magic. It's been either wrong or not quite right, and then you've sort of used that as a I guess a learning tool to develop yourself as a player, to then snap back and get some good results from it.
Well, of course, but I feel like for competitive players, it's very hard not to focus on results.
Okay.
And to focus on the process instead. So when you do not achieve your goal, or when you, I don't know, do not get that PT invite, or when you do not make day 2, you feel, of course, frustrated, and those feels are valid. Those feelings are valid. Like, you still have to process that.
Yeah.
But then you have to learn from it. So the most important thing is to learn, just to use every single tournament, every single season, in our case, as a learning opportunity. So, of course, and we are going to debrief our season. And I, of course, reflected on the whole tournament personally. And I will, definitely will try to do some things differently going into the new season. Because, again, there is a goal that I would like to achieve.
Yeah.
And, you have to try whatever you've got, thanks to the team now.
I guess just on what you said then, I guess the process of development then for a professional player should be asking why a lot. Why did that go so wrong? Why did that go so well? Why was that play good? Why was that bad? Why was the results? Why did I get the results I did? And then process that why into, I guess, how and then when kind of thing. Because if I know why this happened, well, how do I fix that? And when am I going to achieve that? Which is then, I guess, is a good sort of
Definitely, yes.
process, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I totally agree. Sometimes it's not as evident, I would say. Like, for example, as Myra just told about the Reanimator deck and his own approach. Sometimes it may not be so obvious because, you just look at your wins, look at your losses, and you just realize that, oh, those were just bad matchups. But then, you still have to dig deeper. You still have to, reflect on yourself, on your mental, yeah, and not to just say, oh, it was just bad beats, bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a huge point, I think. I think that it's a tough element. It's a really tough element of Magic. Is true self-reflection is almost next to impossible, because you only ever see one side of the game. If you lose a game, your opponent makes a lucky top deck. Well, did I play that game correctly? Etc. Etc. Like Magic, true reflection in Magic the Gathering is really, really hard, and that's one thing I've really tried to improve on personally. And even if at the moment in Modern, for example, I'm currently playing Neoform, which is like, it's like going to the casino, right? But I've really stopped trying to do I got unlucky. I'm playing Neoform, I got unlucky. And it's more like, well, if I'm getting in unlucky 20 games in a row, is that bad luck or is that the deck?
Yeah.
If I saw my bad matchup 10 times, it's like, well, you made the wrong deck choice then. And I think there's always a step back that you can take, because you can only obviously see things from one way. And then if you take a step back, you can now sort of see behind yourself and try. I think it's so easy to excuse bad beats, if especially in such a large event like an RC, like a Spotlight, you can't even go grab a drink between rounds without two people in front of you that you've never met talking about their bad beats from round 3, right? Even if it's in a funny way, or I got absolutely nuked by this deck that I've never played against before, whatever else. It's a really hard thing to do. And I think that's why a sense of community in teams is so important. If Josh is crying about something that Josh shouldn't be crying about, he should trust me as a team member to be able to go and go, hang on, I think you were just wrong here, or it was the wrong deck choice here.
Yeah.
And I think that a team dynamic is certainly very important for practicing and preparing for a large event, but it's also really good in that cool down and that retrospective access post event as well. Looking at the maths, 13% is your chance to day 2 an RC, which is really slim, like really bad math. And then I always remember for Spotlight Liverpool, a Chad Magic member, Duffy, Josh,
Duffy,
recently had his second baby. Lovely, like family man. And he just said from the bracket, from the offset, I can't put effort into Spotlight Liverpool. I'm going to play what you guys are playing. And it's really funny because for Spotlight Liverpool in particular, we ended up on mostly mono reds, which was the incorrect choice, and it was a 2-deck format. But he
it was a 2-deck
mono
format
red,
of one of those decks,
and we
incorrect.
made the wrong choice. Yeah. But he, from the offset, he said, "I can't prep for this. I'm going to steal your homework." So I ran the mono red sessions for our testing group on that. We come up with a very, very close 75. I had it's the first time in my life I knew why every cyborg card should be in my deck, etc. He said I was wrong, and then he copied 75 or 75 from my deck list. I gave him a copy of my cyborg guide. He said it was wrong, which is really funny.
So Duffy.
And then we went through the event. He made day 2 on same record I did. And then day 2, he was paired into Andre Strasky, who's recently just doing their daily thoughts, which is a really interesting piece of content they're doing. They've started streaming again. I think for Spotlight Liverpool, or maybe it was just after, they've streamed all of their testing on Twitch, for example. Like really interesting content being made there. And plays against Duffy. Andre is on Vivi, I believe, Prowess or some form of visit pile. And Duffy crushes Andre 2-0. Says to Andre Strasky after it, before this weekend, I've never played a game in it, and just says thanks for the games and walks away, right? And obviously he's like, it's more of a jovial, I got very lucky, right? And I think that when you look at Magic like that, in that you can put in all the tests in the world, somebody can copy your list, tell you that your list is wrong, and then day 2, get your promo, top X or whatever. There's just always I remember that if I ever start beating myself up, because Magic is not fair fundamentally. You can put all the time in and you can just get paired into Duffy and lose, which is absolutely brutal. But I think that
also happens, yeah.
Yeah. It works both sides. Luck favors both ways, and maybe luck's on somebody else's side for that weekend.
I mean, even if Reed Duke like sits down at a table and draws a mulligans to 4 and draws only but lands, that's Magic the Gathering. Do you know what I mean?
And it's definitely something to take account into retrospective analysis. But I think that the point of like blaming by the beats is like really something I would recommend people at home stop doing, or try to. It's a really hard skill. If you are losing consistently, why?
Do you know what I think? And I would like to know your 2 opinions on this, actually. Is that there's this culture within Magic the Gathering that you are defined by as a person of how well you do in Magic. And I think that creates a really unhealthy relationship with the game, particularly in probably the lower sort of echelons of the competitive scene. If you lose a game of Magic, it's everyone else's fault but your own. And if you win a game of Magic, this is my personality and this is how I express myself. And I think moving away from that and showing humility is actually a key, one of the sort of ingredients to success. I'd like to know your 2 opinions on or your 2 takes on my little opinion there.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so actually I wanted to make a case for Sam's point, but that idea of like reflecting back on like how you reflect back can be hard. I think that's the thing that really puts Worldy Council, on the spotlight, because we actually, like Maria, like you will be experiencing this for the first time, but tomorrow night we're going to be having our debrief meeting for the season. So that's when we all get together, when we all share ideas, and when we all discuss like what we did right, what we did wrong for the season, and how to address those in the next. This constant reiteration, the keyword being reiteration, on not just members, but also not just yourself, but also the process, the team testing process, is what allows us to be innovative. It allows us to always try and be, striving to the best version of our team, and also what helped us develop such an interesting and unique limited testing process, where we moved away from card ranking, card evaluation, and just talk about the context of the format, etc. So I think as a leader, my important skill set and also contribution to the team is communicating those reiterating points to the members so they can work on it. Whether that's like I'll be probably like spending time one-on-one talking to each members about like what they did right, what they did wrong, how they can work on it, which I know I've done with you, Maria, already, but I'll be doing that with everyone so they can help reflect and reiterate on their work this season. And then reiterating on the process is really key. In terms of how the wins and losses kind of not symbolizing, but representing you, like that's something that you see in all levels, but probably you're right. And more or less like less established players have that lack of confidence where they want an external source of confidence to up boost their confidence. But I think the main thing which worked for me is I'm a student of the game, no matter where I am and where I'm competing and who I'm with. If there is a good point, if there is some points being made, I will take that into account and I will digest that the best I can, because I realize I'm not a genius of the game. the way I got to this position was by asking questions and by taking in suggestions.
Humility.
So
being humble.
humility, yeah. I think I'm a student of the game, and that's the type of player I am. So just not forgetting the roots and how you got there is super key.
So your
May I
take on
continue?
yeah.
So yeah, I think when you log in on Twitter, or shall we call it X right now,
Mhm.
it's always, it's full of all those successful players, oh,
Yeah.
I just won a challenge, oh, I just made top 8, whatever. And yeah, it kind of creates this toxic environment.
Yeah.
But what I appreciated that a lot of like actually very good players like Simon Nilsson, for example, he always puts his true and honest results, like, oh, like, I don't know, I fired 4 bullets into this qualifier and I didn't make it, So how many times you have to fail for actually succeed, in the end.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about it. And I feel like it's very important to share your failures, or rather not failures, but just your journey within the game.
Journey's a good word
as
to use,
well.
actually.
Yeah, as well as your success and trophies. So this is very important. And also, what maybe makes a huge difference between just a competitive player and a pro player is that pro players realize that Magic is not an individual sport. It is a team sport. So again, coming back to that mantra, one success is the team success.
Yeah.
This is very true. This is like the attitude you really need to have, to actually succeed.
I mean, the game gives it away, right? The title in the game, it says Magic the Gathering, it tells you the answer right there. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. You just have to read the cards. It's all in there.
So I don't know if you want to, Myra, talk about sort of your year you've had, or do you want to sort of like, well, maybe save that one for another pod. But I'm at the point now of the pod asking if anyone wants to add anything, and then we'll sort of come towards an end, because I really think that was a really good conversation, really constructive conversation, and a conversation that the listeners can really get the teeth into. So yeah, I'll leave it to you then. Do you want to talk about the sort of year you've had and this consistency you've had, or should we save that and have you back on again?
Yeah, I think I'll just do a little sneak peek of the year I've had. Like, I've actually paused my uni studies this season to focus all in on Magic, and I'll love to share that in the next pod. But my journey started. So in Italy, university always starts in September, and September was right about when I started helping Team Worldy Council for PT Atlanta. And then, I was starting my uni year. And then I kind of went to the RC in Antwerp, where I put a lot of effort in and bombed out. With that motivation, frustration, I was able to win the Axiom Now Invitational to be the 2025 UK champion. That qualified me to PT Richmond. And then I had the insane season of GP Lyon, PT Richmond, Arena Championship 11, and RC in Turin. So this season, I've had, including the GP, I've had 4 bullets to try and requalify myself to the PT in Vegas. Unfortunately, I was always 1 or 2 wins short, and obviously didn't manage to achieve my goals. So really, really frustrating. A little bit demoralizing, since I was putting a lot of hours into the game. But I feel like that journey with the team really helped me grow as a person, to deal with the frustration and to put pressure off myself, and also be grateful of the community support I got, and also as a player, where I'm able to play these high stakes matches with less pressure on myself. I'm still learning on completely removing it during win-ins, but all weekend, like I said, RC Turin, I played very, very peacefully, relaxed mind, and did well thanks to that. So next pod, maybe I'd love to share a bit about how the PT testing was in the house, how the in-house dynamic are as a team, because spoilers, I mean, Maria can really talk about this as well, but one thing about Worldly Council is we're just a group of friends, just spending time with each other, bantering, joking around. Those are
Doing
literally
karate
the
in the
dinner.
garage.
Yeah, like the team dinner we've had during RC Turin, like embodies that a lot. We're just like kids joking around the whole time, throwing jokes left and right. So a little bit about the house, a little bit about the limited experience, and yeah, just shout outs to Team Worldly Council, I guess.
It's actually, Maria, I wonder if you actually, just before we sort of come towards the end of this pod, but before I open up the pod to the floor and any last afterburners, I'm just interested into how you allocate time for Magic. Like, have you got any tips on how to on your time allocation to sort of prepare for Magic at a competitive level?
Oh, it's very hard. It's so individual because, I'm in a very privileged position where I can do content creation full time.
Yes.
So
that helps.
I do that basically every day except for the weekends. So I stream on weekdays. And yeah, every 3 seconds that I can get in between, my parenting duties and streaming or content creation, I dedicate to testing.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy. I think that this desire to get to the Pro Tour, it has always been in me, and now I feel like I could actually achieve that, and the experience with Worldly Council has definitely lit that fire within me. I just loved you guys, loved the whole experience, and honestly, it means so much to me because I've been in some teams where this human aspect just doesn't work. And here we align so well in our values, and everyone is so passionate, and it just motivates me to do more for the team. And yeah, this is where I stand. But so for me, it's very hard to actually give advice. It's just, I just love the game.
I guess that is advice though, because if you love it so much, you'll find time, right? You'll find a way to do it, and you'll find it individual to yourself, as you alluded to. So I guess that could be your advice. Passion. Find your passion for it, and then harness that passion.
But I'm also fortunate that my husband is a competitive player as well.
Yeah,
we actually, like, a very cute story. We started dating after qualifying to the same Pro Tour.
Class.
Yeah, and we've been together ever since.
There you go.
So he understands what it means to me, and he supports me, so it just makes it easier.
Yeah, excellent. Sam, what are your current goals in Magic? Actually, I've asked everyone but you.
I think after this podcast is to win an F&M. Honestly, I think that sounds like a good start. So my 2 goals in Magic. 1, be less self-critical. I think that's really important.
It's my job to criticize you, mate.
Yeah, true. But like my play style is very like my personal testing. I do stupid stuff on purpose and then work backwards. Tick that box off. Does that work? What hands can you keep? All that sort of stuff. I think I need to be a bit less critical.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting better. And my actual, when we were prepping for Liverpool, my plan was I had built my modern list for the Sunday qualifier, which obviously I was like, really silly mindset to be in before a large event. Why are you prepping not to make day 2? Why are you prepping your modern list when it's a standard event, right?
Yeah.
So I think my goal is to have a bit more self-confidence, be a bit less self-critical. But I think personally, it's to find wins elsewhere. Magic is a very hard game. There's a good chance the person you play against is better than you in some cases in a lot of these competitive spaces.
Or luckier.
Like, for example, I played against, I forget the guy's name, but he's the one who does all the data.
Fire
It was
Shoes.
either
Not
it
Fire Shoes.
wasn't Fire Shoes. It was either for 17 lands or some
Stirkovitz.
other.
Stirkovitz.
Yes, yeah. I played against him in Liverpool. Didn't know. Absolutely crushed me. And then after he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm actually this well-known guy who does this." I recognize him from then, so that's very cool. But in Bologna, it was my first big event, and Myra actually knocked me out of the Swiss, which I still haven't forgotten, Myra. But thank you very much. But my win from that weekend was my friend making his first Pro Tour, Marco, and finding the best pizza in the world. Honestly, like just some hole in the wall. But I think that, like, obviously I was pretty gutted I didn't make day 2, but expecting to make day 2 your first RC is like quite a high barrier. But I think it's really important to find your wins wherever you are. So, wow, that pizza was really good. It was me, 2 friends. They didn't have cider in Italy. I couldn't find any good cider, so I was like 7 Aperol spritzes deep, and I just remember eating this like really good pizza with mates, just chatting rubbish. One of the people we were vibing with was introduced to us by Marco, was a German friend he had, so I'd never met that guy before.
Yeah.
Just making friends, chatting to new people, eating pizza. If your event doesn't go your way, I think other things that weekend can go your way.
Yeah.
I also offended Italy by ordering lasagna with the starch side as well. Apparently, you're not meant to do that. But like, just finding those little wins outside of Magic at these big events, because most people are traveling for them. Even in like I'm not American or know much about America myself, but it's a long way to travel across America for these spotlights and stuff. And I'm trying to find more wins outside of my wins in Magic, but in the same Magic space. I think that's my goal at the moment. And third to make the Pro Tour maybe, but that's not on the cards as yet.
Yeah. Cool. Does anyone want to add anything before we sort of hand it over to, eventually hand it over to Sam to finish the pod? Any shout outs you want to do?
I mean, one has to be pretty obvious.
Maybe I would like to address, women playing Magic.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it.
Yeah, do it.
And it is obviously a male-dominated space, especially like this competitive Magic the Gathering space. But if you're a woman and if you're listening to this, girl, just believe in yourself.
Yes.
Don't let anyone put you down. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're not good enough.
Correct.
Like you're not smart enough.
Yes.
You are enough.
Yes.
And you can achieve your goals.
And fellas out there,
for sure.
And fellas out there, if you ever have the privilege to play Magic against anyone who's other than a male, don't assume anything. Because my girlfriend is a killer at Magic, and she has kicked my ass so many times that you
exactly
never presume. Ever.
Also, I coach one of a up and coming content creator / competitor called Rika from Japan. Guess what? She started playing January last year.
Class.
Her first ever paper event was Spotlight in Chiba, Mono Red, 9-6. First ever paper event.
Nice, let's go.
So I'm gonna take her to the PT. So I'm just gonna say,
also,
there are stone cold killers out there.
The more welcoming you are in Magic the Gathering, guess what? You got more people to play against. That's all that matters.
Of course.
Yeah.
So it's all up to you guys as well, to make the community as welcoming as possible for the women.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Also, just I guess obvious shout out is Team Worldly Council. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have been able to had the privilege to, give opportunities to up and coming players like Maria, also like Universe, Gustav, Jaime, and spread that sense of community around the world, especially in my EU crew. So big shout out to Worldly Council. Thanks for everything you've believed in us. Thanks for being such an amazing community, and thanks for spreading, the gathering around the world. So if you're interested in with about to make content like pro level content as Team Worldly Council, whether that's like deck guides, VODs of the deck meetings, or just like more matches played, or even just like the testing house content, we are planning to do so. So please stay in tuned for Team Worldly Council YouTube channel and Metafy, and please follow us on X to notify when that's out. Also, me personally, I'm gonna probably delve more into probably the future episode, but I'm gonna start my content creation journey. Maria can help me on how to,
Of course.
how to go from here, but I'm planning to start my YouTube channel where I will talk about the testing process and recap a bit about my traveling journey and the actual tournament I play. So the first one's gonna be my PT recap. Second one's going to be my AC recap. And the third one's going to be my RC recap. And the fourth one is probably going to be the PT Vegas testing / Spotlight in London recap. And I plan to make recap videos. I plan to do deck guides. And I plan to just spread more content that might help you guys to the next level. So please stay in tune for my YouTube channel. And I guess, Maria, thank you so much for this season and everything you've done. We'll be working with each other again for the next RC. So a bit of shout out to you as well.
I appreciate it. Yes. Thank you, Myra, of course, because you were the only one who believed in me, who took me in. So I'm very appreciative, of course. And Worldy Council is amazing. Worldy Council is the best.
Worldy Council.
Maria, where can we find you on socials?
So you can find me on Twitch at Mythic Maria. I stream on weekdays starting from 11:30 a.m. Central European Time. I also upload my VODs on YouTube channel, which is at Mr. and Mrs. Spike. So all of the channels have different names, but bear with me. Okay. And of course, my Twitter /X at CPGRL_.
Cool. And yeah, that's it. Sam, do you want to take us away to the end?
Yeah, of course. So firstly, Maria, Myra, thank you very much. I always love having these type of conversations because it makes me leave the podcast feeling very inspired. And we've just touched upon there. Maria creates content. Myra's looking to create content. I technically am a content creator. I don't know how. It's not really something we've ever touched upon. But the one piece of advice I would give you is if you're at home and you want to create content, just do it. If I can do it, you can. If I can do it, you can definitely do it. That's a good metric of life, honestly. If Sam can do it, you can do it at home. Moving into the actual end of the episode, we are very, very lucky to have such high caliber guests weekly. So liking, sharing, subscribing really helps out the channel a lot. Really pushes these episodes out on YouTube and whatever else is algorithm. Algorithm's big game for content creators, so please do that. If you've got any questions for the lovely Myra and Maria, please leave them below in the comments. Or, as Josh said, we'll have all of the socials in the post as well. We'll chuck in Worldly Councils as well. So, if you're thinking, what are Worldly Council?
Why not?
We'll chuck those in so you can actually check out the umbrella of that team as well. As always, I want to shout out our wonderful sponsors over at UltraPRO. I can't believe that I'm a sponsored gamer. It's just crazy work, to be honest. I don't know how I managed. that. But they do a great line of wonderful products. So check them out. And obviously, if you like any of them, please pick them up. They will not let you down. Yeah, share us about when you want to. Share this episode with your mates. But other than that, thank you. And we will catch you next time.
Bye.